If you sold everything you owned in Stardew Valley, how much money would you make? All the crops, all the chests, everything that's not nailed down, how much is it worth? Before 1.6 came out, I had about 1,000 hours logged in Stardew Valley. Roughly 800 on PC and 200 on Nintendo Switch. I've played several farms to the endgame, some of them even after the 1.5 update, but I've never fully reached perfection. Partly because I suck at the Simon Says minigame on Ginger Island, partly because I used to see befriending villagers as an annoying grind. I used to use a mod for fishing too. With the release of 1.6 and so much new content to explore, I decided it was time to go for the gold and achieve perfection. And I'm almost there. I've done all the farming, shipping, crafting, collecting, and even all the fishing. I've befriended all the NPCs, I've married Elliot, he is such a sweetheart, and we've had our first kid. Not part of perfection, but I've never gotten the full house achievement either. I usually have Krobus move in. Anyway, my 1.6 farm. The obelisks are built, the monsters are slain, and the star drops are all consumed. So only a few things are left. To set the scene, we're nearing the end of fall in year 4. Perfection tracker is at 89%. One golden walnut is missing. I play on PC with a controller because the coziest way to play Stardew is curled up on the couch with my laptop. With a controller, at least the one that I'm using, the darts minigame is excessively frustrating. Or it was until I realized while writing this script that on said laptop, it's easy enough to use the trackpad for that minigame. I should have realized this sooner. I use the trackpad for decorating too. So I do have all that walnut. By my own 2 hands, for the first time ever. That much closer to perfection. Another lingering issue is a bug involving the ancient seed crafting recipe. I donated the artifact and received a seed package, and even have 7 more of the artifact in my seed chest, but the crafting recipe is not in my crafting tab. It's a bug that's been noted a few times on Reddit and the Stardew Valley forums, and I could probably edit my save to fix it, but I think I'll just buy a perfection waiver from Fizz. I'll get to interact with a new mechanic, even though I technically shouldn't need to. But I'll do this after my golden clock is built, because it seems more impactful to go from 99% to 100 than 89 to 90. Speaking of that golden clock, it's the last big hurdle on my way to the summit. All it will cost me is 10 million gold, and right now my funds are less than 1 mil. That's a long way to go. Even though I've been aiming for perfection, I haven't been min-maxing, preferring a more laid-back, diverse playthrough. How poorly optimized is my farm? Folks, I only have 1 pig. Anyway, part of my normal playstyle is to save at least a little of everything, preferably most of everything, and let me tell you, big chests have helped a ton with that. I've got chests all over, packed with stuff, and for the past few in-game weeks I've been wondering, and here we come to our thesis, how much do I really have, and how much is it really worth? Additionally, I like the idea of getting rid of all the produce, loot drops, and crafting materials I own, and somewhat starting from scratch for the home stretch. I'm not going to sell my animals, break my machines, or chop down my ancient fruit plants. That's a more drastic reset that I'm interested in right now. This is basically just a mission to empty every chest and go back to, if you want to make something, you have to buy or gather all the materials yourself. To have the clearest valuation of my hoarded goods, I'll need to set my money in pocket close to 0. I'll accomplish this while simultaneously setting up for the next phase of my farm by buying starfruit seeds from Sandy. This means I'll also bend the rules by not selling them on liquidation day, but this isn't a challenge to go from bankrupt to golden clock, it's an exercise in video game farm valuation. Now if you'll indulge me for a moment, let me tell you about my character. If you're not interested in Stardew Valley storytime and just want to jump to the grand sell-off, here's the time code. But I've spent over 150 hours on this one save file, and I'm really fond of it, so I'm going to tell you about life on Clockwork Farm. Quick note, I started this save file in the middle of reading the Clock Tower War books by T. Kingfisher, so some of the little details of this playthrough are themed around that, including my choice of spouse. Okay, the farm, on a brisk day in late fall. It's not done yet. A little more decorating and manicuring will happen eventually, but in general I like my farms to have a wild, rustic edge to them. So every morning I wake up, talk to Elliot, and give him a pomegranate. I don't have other spouse experiences to compare him to, just Krobus, but I've loved being married to Elliot. His 14 heart event was just beautiful. Maybe I'm a sap. Going outside, you'll notice that I moved my farmhouse. The original location didn't flow with my design or routine very well, and although it's taken some adjustment, this is definitely working out better. My shipping bin locations aren't optimized, but we get by. Leaving the house, I generally need at least half of my inventory open to do my daily chores, so I keep a dump chest right by the stairs. My daily gift statues are arranged in a way that naturally guides me down and to the right. This helped me break my pattern of running the wrong direction out of the house, and my pattern of forgetting to get my blessings many days. This direction leads down into my tapper mushroom forest and also my slime hutch. We'll circle back to the hutch a bit later. I love this circle of mushroom logs. It's one of my favorite parts of my farm. And of course, this woodsy area contains my mountain obelisk. It can be accessed from the mushroom path, but there's also a trail coming down from my main field on the right. Mushroom cave, more tappers. This little section has machines set aside for fulfilling raccoon quests. I finished the progression part of the side quest, but I still like to help them out from time to time. Lightly themed tropical area. These ponds contain the fish ingredients I need to make seafoam puddings. And here's a gate to my animal area. I make designs with lightning rods to keep the fresh grass from being eaten away completely. Come spring, I'll add Leah's carving and a few other art pieces to make this an enrichment sculpture art garden for my animals. I started with a pair of chickens named Polka and Dot, so when I got my next pair of chickens, I named them Pin and Stripe, and then my whole naming convention snowballed from there. Now all my chickens are paired names of textile patterns, my rabbits are named after fabrics, my cows are types of pants, and my goats are weaving jargon like warp, weft, and shuttle. The pig is Jim. I use this fertile land for recurring crops: strawberries, blueberries, cranberries. The grass patch to the left is deep enough so even if I scythe right at the fence, some of the grass will remain to regrow. My pockets are usually pretty full by this point, but I conveniently have a place to drop off my mushrooms. Stuff in my backpack is quick dumped into a chest, which gets portioned out into these hoppers when they run empty. The hoppers feed into dehydrators, 4 of which are functional, the other 3 are vestigial and decorative. Shrine Island is entirely overrun with moss trees and hardwood, and I'm fine with it for now. Next we find my fruit orchard with extra pomegranate trees for Elliot, and my 2 original fish ponds. Beach obelisk in the back, of course. This pond has always been sturgeon. This one used to be normal eel, but I realized that I'm never going to cook spicy eels by hand, so I might as well put something more picante in the pond. Now we've reached the preserving shed. The chest outside holds everything to be preserved, and the jar here tells me when the jars inside are ready. Classic preserving technique. With my keg shed, I tried to do a whole batch of one crop, all melon, all pumpkin, all strawberry, etc., but I enjoy having a larger mix of pickles and jellies, so this process is a little more chaotic. Into the greenhouse. Another tell that I'm not min-maxing. This place isn't solid ancient fruit. I like having a few of all the recurring plants I use a lot. Coffee beans especially. They saved my bacon when I was doing the key quest to ship 100k of fresh food. I had enough coffee beans that I could take over my shed of kegs, spend a whole day brewing coffee, and make about 70k in triple shot espressos without breaking a sweat. There is one hot pepper plant hidden among the ancient fruit. It makes me laugh. All the produce from the greenhouse gets stored inside or nearby. Keg shed. Nothing special about the keg shed. It has kegs. Rounding out the mainland tour, my workbench surrounded by chests for land forage, beach forage, gems and minerals, monster drops, farm materials, flowers/decorations, and exotic forage. Big chests have been a huge help. Hello, Walter. Here's my main crop field. It cycles through cauliflower, melon, and pumpkin depending on the season. Now that I have better sprinklers and pressure nozzles, I could rearrange this area, but the thing is, I don't need more cropland. And the current layout is exactly 144 tiles, which is gross, and that's the way I like it. Down below, I put down a few rows of path and planted grass to keep my forest from encroaching and blocking my view of the bottom crops. Up above, my workshop barn. This is where my shop assistant Walter stays. For perfection, you need to craft an ostrich incubator and ship an ostrich egg. It didn't occur to me until right now that I could have done both of these things without ever hatching the original egg. But now I have Walter, so I don't mind. There are 28 machines on 28 hoppers in here, plus 10 or so deluxe furnaces. The looms, cheese presses, and mayo machines around the outside are purely decorative. Oh, and the oil press is also on a hopper, but I usually forget to harvest that one. The chest by the door is for quick dumping goods that I pull out of the machines, and the mini shipping bin is for smoked fish because there's too much variety for it to auto-stack into the chest. Outside, I have another little patch of grass for Walter to feed on. He also spends a lot of time wandering around my crop field. Here are my cactuses hanging out with my desert warp totem. The white chest nearby is where I keep my skull cavern gear or drop my tools when not in use. The yellow chest over here holds universal loved gifts, plus geodes and mystery boxes I need to take to Clint, and whatever I need to drop in a hurry to go to Skull Cavern. This last shed is my crystallarium shed. I'd like to expand and decorate it. Let me imagine for a minute what that might look like. Yep, definitely something to look forward to. Back behind the barn, I have my stinky fish stuff. Junimo chest with my rod, watering can, and panning pan. Big chest with 1 or 3 of each fish. My legendaries are safely in aquariums and will not be sold. Deluxe bait maker, bait machine, and another chest with baits and bobbers. I had to arrange this section a couple times to get the colors alternating green, blue, green. And finally, off to the slime hutch. Tigers are special to me, so tiger slimes are all I wanted in my hutch. Setting out, I thought I'd have a problem getting their eggs, but managed to drop 5 of them within 2 days of building my hutch, so now the lionfish pond isn't really necessary. It can stay though. Yeah, here are all my slimes. Before I forget, during the first couple of years on this farm, I would have a patch of ground studded with basic sprinklers, and I would use mixed seeds, mixed flower seeds, forage seeds, plus different seasonal crops, all planted together in a haphazard way. I would let the grass grow up to the edges and wouldn't harvest any of it till the end of the season to give a section of my farm an edible garden feeling. But once I unlocked Ginger Island, I had less free time to putter around my farm, so revamped this area. All that remains of those glory days is a flower patch with beehives. Support the pollinators, y'all. That's all we have here. Off to Ginger Island. Again, I've set up for vibes rather than max profits. I have at least 8 of each normal multi-harvest crop. I pick the produce and arrange it into these chests by color, except for the times when I forget and sort them by accident. For a few seasons, this big field of 192 plants was held open and ready to do the crop mission for Mr. Key. I'd never successfully completed it before this playthrough. By keeping this field planted with wheat until the quest came up, I actually pulled it off in under 2 weeks. Thanks in no small part to 100 hyperspeed grow and 400 omni geodes that were cracked open for beans on the first day of the quest. But still, sorry for the tangent, that challenge was my white whale. Since completing the key crop quest, this field has gone through a couple lazy monocrop plantings. Looks like we're currently on beets. Ignore these beans, I need to replace them. Little patch of ancient fruit. This patch of bare ground here is exactly the size needed to use a treasure hunting totem. Using these on a good luck day is an excellent way to pick up omni geodes, treasure troves, and golden coconuts. These trellis crops are packed dense because they can be harvested with the iridium scythe. This patch used to be where I planted leftover mono-harvest seeds, but then I threw down a bunch of mixed seeds to see what would happen. Now I have more blueberry bushes. I had been preparing for an eventual ancient fruit takeover, but since I'm selling all my seeds, except for those starfruit ones I'll buy from Sandy, I guess I'll have to go back to square one on that. Other than having a dozen seed makers and a greenhouse full of live plants. It's also in the plans to do some fairy rose beehives over here to the west, but that will be slow going since I only have 1 or 2 maple trees tapped right now. And that's the tour. My plan was to liquidate on fall 28th, and the days leading up to it were pretty unremarkable gameplay-wise. I ran around checking the chests that were scattered around town and at the beach. I emptied my hoppers, harvested crops into chests, basically moving everything to be closer to shipping bins, which even involved buying an extra shipping bin to put outside my barns. A mini bin wasn't going to cut it. By the afternoon of the 27th, everything seemed pretty much ready, but I was still a little nervous about getting everything sold in one day. So I did what I normally do in-game to ease my anxiety. I hit rocks. Spirit's Eve was that evening, and I found my husband there for one final pep talk. But after I'd chatted to the town and run the maze, there was nothing left to do but go to sleep. I guess if I needed to, I can reset the day. Then it was go time. Take a guess in the comments how many trips you think I took to shipping bins. In 60 seconds, you can check your answer. Seven o'clock. Liquidation was done, except for these last diamonds. But that was it. It was over. No taking anything back. This isn't actually what happened, but it's definitely how I felt. 2 final tasks remained. Heading to the desert to buy starfruit seeds from Sandy, and taking my rings, weapons, and trinkets to Marlin. I decided I wanted their sale price to be in my pocket the next morning, even if it wouldn't be tallied on the overnight shipping screen, so seed purchasing happened first. Now there's really nothing left to do but sleep. And there's the grand total. More than halfway to the 10 million I need to get the golden clock and achieve perfection. Maybe not the biggest payday ever, but it's mine. A cold winter morning, empty pockets, and my work cut out for me. Nothing to do but head to Ginger Island and start planting those starfruit seeds. Let me know in the comments section if you're interested in seeing the rest of Slate's journey to the summit. I might do something silly like only carrying and using 1 tool per day. And tell me if you've ever done something like this. What stunts have you pulled on your farm? Well, that's a wrap for this video. If you need me, I'll be in Pelican Town. Or Ginger Island, I guess. So much for a pithy ending. Since I already blew the sign off, if you stick around, you can see the page-by-page breakdown of my shipping report and see exactly what was sold. Maybe sometimes I get tongue-tied, but I always keep my receipts. good enough.